Web content management and publishing were a little changed in 2010 from 2007, but the changes in 2013 are huge. There's some new refined functionality for authors, but the big changes are related to the functionality for designers. So the designers no longer have to be experts to provide designs for SharePoint. There are brand new navigation options that decouple the navigation of publishing sites from their underlying storage. There are new publishing options that make it easy to publish content from catalogs that are all over a farm. And there are new multilingual and translation capabilities. Now, generally speaking, the old ways still work, with a few exceptions. However, probably the most important change, because it's all about the dollars, is that it is much less expensive to build public publishing sites in SharePoint 2013 than it was in SharePoint 2010 by a factor of, $10,000 versus $85,000. I mean, it's a big, big difference. The difference I'd like to talk about now, though, is this thing called Design Manager. Now, Microsoft rightly recognized that branding pre-2013 sites is too hard. You have to have somebody who is not only pretty good with branding and working with visual assets, but who is also an expert at SharePoint. And it may come as a surprise to you to discover that a lot of really creative people are not also enthralled by SharePoint. And so they needed to come up with some way for those really creative people to produce good designs and also to open up SharePoint design work to design firms that just were not willing to make investments in particular platforms. They just want to design websites. So the way Design Manager works is it lets you convert existing compositions into SharePoint master pages using this really cool tool called Design Manager. It also lets you do a few other things as well. One of those is that it lets you define device channels so that you can target different renders of your pages to different user agents. So you're no longer stuck with a mobile layout and a web layout. You can actually have lots of different layouts if you want by defining device channels inside of Design Manager. The main thing that we're going to look at today, though, is how to make master pages out of HTML pages. And we'll also take a look at page layouts. So what we're going to do now is jump over to a SharePoint publishing site. And I started to make my own sample comp. And then I decided, well, that's really not a fair thing to do, right? I could rig the game. So I went out to the internet and I found a Creative Commons open source website template that I could use under a license that was highly rated and had lots of downloads, and that's the one I picked, and it's called the Greenhouse. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take the Greenhouse and we're going to pull it into SharePoint Design Manager and make a new master page from it. All right, so here we are on a freshly provisioned publishing site. What I did to make this was I went into Central Administration, I chose Create Site Collections, and under the Publishing tab, I chose Publishing Portal. And it got created and it opened up, and I can see here on the home page that it's got two sets of tasks that I can perform. One set is for information architects, and the other set is for visual designers. So today, I am pretending to be a visual designer. Now, I don't have a complete design package. The design package is the thing that gets created by Design Manager, so I'm actually going to come over here to the gear and open up Design Manager. And Design Manager takes me through the process that I need in order to brand my site. So I could import a completed design package, but I don't have one. I could pick a pre-installed look, but these are all amazingly ugly. No, I have my own vision, which is from this website template that I downloaded from the internet. Right, so I'm going to skip over the management of device channels, and I'm going to upload some design files. Now, to do this, what they recommend that you do is that you map a network drive to the location of your master page gallery. And I've already done that. I've got it open right here. And I'm going to open up another instance of Windows Explorer. And I'm going to grab my template that I got from the internet, and I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to paste it right here into my master page gallery. All right, and once it's uploaded, I'm ready to move to the next step, which is to edit the master pages. Now, the most important thing is that the HTML page that's going to be converted needs to be valid and not have any validation errors in it. All right, so I'm going to come down here to thegreenhouse.com, and here is the index, and we'll just select this and let it do its thing. And you can see that it successfully converted the index. All right, so now we're ready to start editing this file and see what it did to it. When I did this import and the conversion happened, the HTML actually got some stuff added into it. And so this is what the layout looks like. And we're going to come in here to our mapped drive, and you can see that it actually created a master page from the HTML document. Now the key thing here is that we are not allowed to edit the master page. We need to edit the HTML document, and as it changes, the master page will magically be updated by SharePoint. All right, so I'm going to open this with Microsoft Visual Studio 2012. All right, so you can see I actually have some instructions to that effect. This HTML file has been associated with the SharePoint master page carrying the same name. While the files remain associated, you will not be allowed to edit the master file, and any rename, move, or deletion operations will be reciprocated. And we can look at this in design view. I could use Notepad for this. I could use Dreamweaver. Anything that's able to be used for HTML design would work perfectly fine. It's just that Visual Studio is my favorite tool because, you know, that's how I roll. All right, so if I scroll down, I can see that at the bottom I've got this note that says this div, which you should delete, represents the content area that your page layouts and pages will fill. Design your master page around this content placeholder. So what I want to do is take this and move this placeholder to the spot where my main body is going to go, right? So I'm going to switch to split view and navigate here to this default content block. And I need to delete this because this is just a note. And then I need to take the placeholder main, and I'm going to copy it, or rather I'm going to cut it out of here, and I'm going to move it up into the body of the page. So this page conveniently had a div in it already called content. So I'm just going to select the content div and replace it. Make sure I got all of that. So I don't wind up with a bad I'm going to head back down here and undo this cut. Because the way those divs lined up didn't look right to me, but clearly I have just the content placeholder main div. So all right, once again, I'm going to get rid of that. Come up here to the content div. I'll collapse it, delete it, and replace it with our content div. All right, so let's save this. And now let's see how we're doing as far as SharePoint is concerned. So I'm going to come back over to my publishing site. And I could easily get confused where I am, so to keep that from becoming an issue, I'm going to open up another browser of a different brand. And I'm going to go into this publishing site. So this was at SharePoint Sites Pub. And before I can start testing this master page, I need to approve it. So I'm going to go into Design Manager and go over here to Edit Master Pages, and I'm just going to take the index page here, and I'm going to publish a major version. All right. So this changes to approved. And now I'm going to check it out because I'm going to keep working on it. But I now have a major version that I can use. So I'm going to go into the Site Settings page, and I'm going to go to the Master Page link underneath Look and Feel here, and I'm going to change the Site Master Page, which is the master page that publishing pages use, to the greenhouse/index. And I'm just going to choose OK. Now what I want to see here at this point is that if I make a page that I have a central area where I can put content. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say Add a Page, and we'll just call this Test, and I'll create it. And that looks pretty good, right? Save it. All right, so there's the heading, there's the main area, and there's the footer. So far, so good. But, there is a problem with this, which is that this navigation, which also came from the comp, is not really what I need. I need the navigation to be driven by my site. So let's talk about how we can do that. The Design Manager has this handy tool called Snippets, and what it lets you do is get ASP.NET code for common page areas. So it's got snippets for the top nav and for the search box, and most of the common areas of a SharePoint publishing site. It also has tools so that we can edit the styles in place. And once we have the particular piece of snippet looking the way we want, then it's up to us to put it back into the HTML page that we're converting into a master page in the spot where it needs to go. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back into my master page there, and I'm going to add in a top nav area, and I'm going to add in some left nav. All right, so what I want to do is have the top link bar up here, and I want to have the left nav here. And it occurs to me that when I was editing this before that I overwrote too much stuff because I need a div right here. So the first thing I'm going to do before I go any further is go back and fix that. So I'm going to just undo this until I get it back to the way it was with regards to the body. And this content div really has a couple of areas inside of it, right? So there's content, and it's got one called posts and one called links, and then one that clears the float. So what I want to replace actually here is the inside of the post content. So I'm going to select this tag content, make sure I got all that I want. Okay, I do, and I'm going to replace this. And we'll go ahead and format the document. Okay, so that looks good. There's the opening post tag. There's the ending div for the post, end post. All right, so everything's looking good there. I'm going to save this. All right, now I want to test and make sure that I have this right before I go any further. I don't have to go through any version control stuff with this because I've got it checked out and I published it once. And so since I'm the owner, I can see the draft version. And now every time I come over here to this little test page and refresh it, I'm going to see the latest and greatest. All right, so that looks much, much better. All right, so first thing I want to do is replace this area with the top link bar for SharePoint. And so to do that, I'm going to come over here to my preview page here. And up here in the upper right-hand corner is a link that says Snippets. And I'm going to open this up. And the Snippets tool has HTML snippets for all of the common areas of the page. A preview area, this is the top navigation that we're looking at. The snippet itself, which I can copy to the clipboard. And then here on the right-hand side, I have all of the important style elements of the particular thing that I'm looking at. So I could do things like change the colors or the size or the appearance or whatever it is I really wanted to change. Now, I'm not going to change anything about this snippet. I'm just going to copy it to the clipboard. And I'm going to come over here to Visual Studio, and what I want to affect is this area here. And so this is inside of this div menu. And so once again, I'm going to preserve the menu div itself. And the reason I'm doing this is because the style sheet that came along with the comp still applies. So really what I'm affecting is the HTML markup. So I'm going to select the tag content here and just paste this snippet in. And I'll save my work. And then I'll come over here to Chrome and refresh this page to make sure that the top nav bar is looking good. So it is. I mean, it's not looking good because I would need to continue to mess around with my style sheet to make everything look perfect. But you can see that there is the test link to my page, and here's the Edit Links button. All right, so we're going to ignore that for now and then come down here and take care of the left nav as well. So come back over to the snippet gallery, and this time I'm going to choose vertical navigation. And once again, I'm going to leave the colors just like they are and copy it to the clipboard. And we'll scroll on down here and find the links area. We'll just collapse this. Paste in our snippet. And just so we can see the top link bar later on, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up to that menu area and get rid of the thing that's causing the master page, or rather the original styling, to apply, just so that we can read the menu. I would fix this later on. All right, so I'll just get rid of this ID. All right, and so now we'll save both of these things. And we'll come back over here to our preview, our test page rather, and refresh this. All right, so it's looking, usable. There's a link to the test page, which is what we're on. There's some content that I created previously, and there is a quick launch, or rather a left nav, along with the functionality to edit links here as well. So we're making good progress. Creation of a publishing page requires a master page and a page layout. And what a page layout is kind of like a form. It provides layouts for authors, and it determines where they're able to actually enter in content. And it also is a spot that includes fields for entering in metadata and other such things. So what it does is it creates an authoring experience that is similar to filling out a form. The way you create a page layout is with Design Manager. And so what you do is you select a content type. In the examples I'm doing here, I haven't created any content types, and so what I am using is basically the article page content type. But if I had additional metadata, then I would create a content type that had that additional metadata, and then I would go into Design Manager and create that page layout. Once that page layout is created, it should be no surprise to you that what you get is an HTML page and a bound ASPX page that's generated when you edit the HTML. And there's also a snippet gallery available for page layouts as well. So let's jump back over to the machine and make a very basic page layout, and then just take a look at the snippet options we have and make a page. So here we are back in Design Manager, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to skip over the display templates and go straight to editing the page layouts. And so I'm going to create a new layout, and I'll call this new page layout. And we'll base this on article page and just click OK. Let SharePoint do its thing. So just like before with the master page, I'm going to go ahead and approve this before I do anything, just so I can actually use it. I'm going to publish a major version. I wouldn't do this on a real site, but for the purposes of this demonstration, it's just fine. And if I come over into my mapped folder that I created, and we'll take our new page layout and open it up in Visual Studio 2012. All right, so I'll ignore this inconsistent line endings because I'm not going to save this file here anyway. We're just looking at it. So you can see that it added in some page field values for us in an edit mode panel and CSS registration, all sorts of fun little things. But there may still be additional edits that we wanted to make to this layout. Oh, I see what the problem is. You see what I did? I opened up the ASPX page, and what I really wanted to do was open up the HTML page. All right, so it's even better that I didn't try to normalize the line endings, because SharePoint would have just forbidden that, because that page is generated. All right, so here in the HTML, you can see that this is all being represented just like in the master page case, with a bunch of comments that tell SharePoint where to put the different pieces. So here in the ASPX page, we have this page field value, which is inside of placeholder page title. And over here in the ASPX page, we've got placeholder page title and that same field value. So we can come back over to Design Manager and actually have a look at this thing, and it opens it up and gives us a preview with some lorem ipsum. And we can come over here to the snippets gallery and see the page fields, all the things that are in this content type. So if we say we wanted to have the contact email, well, there's the preview for it, and here is the snippet that we would need to paste into the page layout. So we would just put all of these things wherever we wanted them. And there's snippets for the edit mode panel and for security trimming and for web parts and all sorts of other lovely things. And this is more or less the same project, or this is more or less the same process rather, as using Design Manager to manipulate a new master page. All right, so I'm going to come over here to Chrome, and we'll just see how our page layout works. I'm going to come over here and add a new page, and I'm going to say this page is from Layout. And I'll choose Create. And so this time we have a title, which is from Layout, and a page content area, and a roll-up image. And, you know, just like that, we're getting something that's pretty nifty and resembles a real SharePoint publishing page. And the ribbon is working. If we go to Browse, there's the top link bar. Now, what I want to do is put a little bit of content in here and really quickly highlight some of the improvements for authors. I'm going to come over to My Documents on my page here, and I'm going to open up this sales data spreadsheet that I have that has a chart of delicious fruit in it. All right, and so I'm just going to take this and do a copy, and then come over here to the browser and paste this right in. And you can see that it's nicely formatted according to my site styles as opposed to what came from the spreadsheet. And my options here are to paste it in, paste it clean, which just gives me a table, or paste it as plain text, which just puts it in as plain text. All right, so let's save this page. And wow, check it out. So we still would have some more work to do as we were working with Design Manager. Clearly we've got a little gradient here, and we need to have some more white space here in the body. And as you know, when I was working with the master page, I pulled the styling off of this so that the top link bar didn't overlay the greenhouse logo by free CSS templates. But hopefully at this point you have an idea that at least in the case of publishing sites, there's no reason at all to lament the lack of visual designers in SharePoint Designer, because Design Manager does a more than adequate job of replacing that functionality.